So guys, yesterday in Liverpool, Eddie Hearn held two press conferences, one of which massively overshadowed the other. So, as you guys will know, David A, Tony Bellew did a press conference in Liverpool with Ahara Davies and Derry Matthews, and it massively kicked off. If you want to hear more about that, I did a video about it yesterday that's up on the channel, so please do check that out. But for this particular video, we're going to discuss the other press conference, which was announcing a matchroom show in Liverpool. And, you know, it's not a mega bill by any stretch of the imagination, but one or two intriguing fights, headlined by Martin Murray versus Gabriel Rosado, with perhaps an even more intriguing fight on the undercard, Rocky Fielding versus John Ryder for the British title. Now, I want to start by discussing that fight. That's one that I'm really looking forward to. It's not necessarily a elite matchup. Neither guy do I view as a world champion in the making, etc. But it's a fight that I'm actually genuinely looking forward to, and it's a fight that I do think is closer to a 50-50 matchup. I do have a slight lean towards one of the guys, which I'll come on to later on in the video, but it's a competitive fight. John Ryder, long-term viewers will know that I've never really been a fan of John Ryder, but I watched him box live against Adam Ysis on the Eubank card, and I was actually really impressed. He showed substantial improvement to his game. He was getting his work off really nicely. He actually looked fairly slick and fairly advanced technically in that fight, admittedly against Adam Ysis, who, it's debatable what he has actually achieved in the sport of boxing. But Ryder looked really improved. He didn't fade. He seemed to be hitting with a bit more pop. He was picking his shots really nicely. Now, the suggestion from Ryder is that the move to 168 pounds is massively beneficial for him because he's not having to make weight to the same extent as when he was fighting at 160. That may be true. However, there are negatives to Ryder fighting at 168. And I think one of those main negatives is that simply he's not a very big guy for the weight. In fact, he's a very small super middleweight, a really small super middleweight. And maybe that wasn't exposed against Adam Ysis because Adam Ysis himself is a middleweight who is fighting at super middleweight. So, Ryder against a genuine 168 pounder, you've got concerns over size. You've got concerns over whether his power will, he's never been a big puncher, but will his power carry to 168 against a genuine 168 pounder? And what will his punch resistance be like against a genuine 168 pounder? And for me, Rocky Fielding provides that test, because whatever you think of Rocky Fielding, he is a legit big guy. I don't know how tall he is, but I'd guess he's 6'2", 6'3". He's a rangier guy. He's going to have a substantial height advantage over John Ryder. And Fielding's a guy with power. I'm not saying Fielding is a world-class puncher, but Fielding carries decent pop at 168 pounds, certainly more than Adam Ysis, and that's going to test Ryder out. I know Fielding was stopped by Callum Smith early, so there may be a suggestion that he perhaps doesn't have an elite chin and elite punch resistance. But realistically, John Ryder and the punching power he's shown in his career today, it's unlikely he's going to stop Fielding, for my money. He didn't stop Adam Ysis, so I don't know why he'd be stopping Rocky Fielding. So it's going to be more of a test for him, this fight. And that's very interesting. Fielding, he's had one or two decent bits of form on his resume. He got the win against Christopher Brass last time out, admittedly in a very close, very controversial fight that many felt could have gone the other way. He had one or two relatively decent standard wins prior to going up against Callum Smith. And for me, Fielding was kind of a guy who at one stage I was considering a guy who could maybe win a European level title. I think he's largely flown under the radar in his career because since Fielding's been an active since Fielding's been like an active fighter, we've had Carl Frotz, we've had James DeGale, we've had George Groves, we've had Callum Smith, all operating in the same division. And I guess as a result, he's never really got perhaps the hype and publicity, towards the top of the super middleweight division domestically. Being frank, he seems like a nice guy, Rocky Fielding, but he probably doesn't have the most electric personality and image outside of the ring either. But these are two decent fighters. Had this fight been a year ago, I'd have picked Rocky Fielding here very comfortably. But John Ryder showed vast improvement last time out, and even though I don't believe that he's big enough for 168, maybe, just maybe, his performances have been impeded by making that 160 weight class for too long. You know, he's very short, but he is quite a stocky, powerfully built bloke. You know, he's got thick arms, he's got a big back for his weight class, and you never know, maybe that move up, despite the fact he's going to be massively small in stature, maybe given his build and the way his body's made up, you know, it'll bring out some improvement in him. I think it's going to be tough, really, to try and get inside on Rocky Fielding, because, you know, Adam Etch's his jab against Ryder was absolutely woeful. Like, you know, some of the worst jabbing I've ever seen. You know, literally throwing triple jabs with all three missing by a foot or more. Rocky Fielding, I'm not saying he's no, you know, he's no Floyd Mayweather in there in terms of accuracy, but he's not going to make the same mistakes. He's a bit sharper, a bit smarter, a bit more experienced, and again, even bigger than Adam Etchis. So, you know, it's a tough fight, this, and it's a fight that creates legit interest for me. Maybe it's a bit early in both guys' career to say it's a crossroads fight. I think if John Ryder loses this fight, kind of hard to see where he's going to go from here, because it would be coming up short yet again at British level. If Rocky Fielding lost, it would only be the second loss of his career. Having said that, given the nature of his first loss to Callum Smith and the fact that John Ryder is comparatively a lower level of opposition than Callum Smith, you'd wonder what Rocky Fielding's upside would be. So kind of a crossroads fight, with the winner potentially going on to get a decent fight at European level or something of that nature. You never know. With the way the UK scene is at present, you know, the amount of active super middleweights we have. Of course, you've got to throw in Chris Eubank Jr. into the mix as well. The winner of this fight could well get a big fight. You never know. One of the Eubanks, the Groveses, the Gales, at some point will be looking for a challenger, and you know, the winner of this fight could throw themselves right into the mix. So yeah, it's a fight that's a must-win for both guys. Early pick, narrowly Rocky Fielding. Narrowly Rocky Fielding. I think he's going to be substantially bigger. I think his style is going to use that size to his advantage. Ryder was successful getting on the inside against Etches, but I don't think Fielding will be quite as easy. I think Fielding's going to carry a lot more power than Ryder. I don't know if Ryder will have been hit as hard in the professional ranks as he's going to be hit by Rocky Fielding, a legit super middleweight. And I don't think Ryder's got the pop to see Rocky Fielding off. So I'm going to go Rocky Fielding at this stage, but a real interesting fight, and, you know, potentially a clash of styles. Fielding looking to box on the outside and keep it long and, you know, try and utilise long-range power shots. Ryder trying to duck and weave and try and be a bit slick and make Fielding miss and try and work the hooks and the uppercuts on the inside from that awkward southpaw stance. Could be an interesting clash, this. Main event, Rosado versus Martin Murray. Neither of these guys are guys who I have historically been fans of, although I will admit the clash of the two could create a stylistic good fight. Potentially a war, which is the phrase a lot of guys are using. You know, both of these guys for me are gatekeepers, if you like. Rosado, I'm not one of these guys who writes someone off once they've had a loss, but I think Rosado's had 10 losses in the sport of boxing. Martin Murray, I don't know how many losses he's had on his career, but he tends to lose at the top level, and he tends to lose in good fights at the top level. You know, we've seen him up against Groves, Golovkin, Sturm, Abraham. He's best known for his losses as opposed to his wins. And if you actually look at Martin Murray's resume and think who the best guys he's actually beaten are, I know he's been unlucky against Sergio Martinez and Felix Sturm, but who's the best guy Martin Murray has actually got a decision against? You know, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's not a great list of wins on his resume. So for me, you know, this is an interesting fight, and Rosado is probably just about a winnable fight for Martin Murray. Martin Murray may actually have the boxing advantage in this fight for my money. He'll certainly have a size advantage, but Martin Murray's size advantage could be a negative in this fight depending on how you view it, because, you know, it's very easy for fighters to say they're going to drop down a weight class after they suffer a loss like Murray did against George Groves. But let's have it right. Before that fight, Martin Murray was making a huge deal about what a big 168 pounder it was. And I heard him on several occasions say that he thinks he'll end his career at 175 pounds. And he actually think he may even outgrow super middleweight. So look, he's taken a loss and changed his opinion. But this is the guy who was always massive at 160, always massive at 160. He's now older. He's now had the experience of making a higher weight class for a few fights. How easy is it going to be for him to get back down to that 160 when he was an absolute monster at the weight to begin with? Yeah, in many ways it reminds me of the Kell Brook and Golovkin situation, where Kell's going to have to now make 147 again to fight Errol Spence. So, if Martin Murray's not on form, if he has to kill himself making weight, maybe that means Rosado is a live dog in this fight. But right now, I do favour Martin Murray. I think he's the bigger guy. He may actually have the boxing advantage. And Martin Murray is tough as nails. He's someone who's not going to be very easy to stop, especially from a smaller guy like Gabe Rosado. So because of that, my inclination is that the fight will go late. I know Martin Murray is no power puncher, so the fight will probably go late. And if I look at that natural boxing advantage, I'm probably siding with Martin Murray. So, yeah, two interesting fights. Two fights with different subplots going on outside of the ring. Will John Ryder be able to face a legit 168-pounder with success? Will Martin Murray be able to cut down to 160? Will Gabe Rosado make a big name for himself in the UK by coming over here and upsetting the odds against the home fighter? And then obviously the Rocky Fielding dynamic. People think he was destroyed by Callum Smith and that he robbed Christopher Abras. So there's another set of doubts over Rocky Fielding. So some interesting fights, some interesting questions surrounding the various competitors. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Who are you guys picking? I'm going Martin Murray and Rocky Fielding. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Who are you picking in these two fights? Do you think these are good matchups? Look, these aren't superstar matchups. These aren't big name matchups, but they are competitive fights. And because of that, they make for some interesting viewing and a bit of a puzzle to crack. And both of them, whilst they're not superstar names, could actually develop stylistically into thoroughly entertaining fights. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, I guess. Let me know your thoughts, people. Leave your comments in the section below. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button. It massively helps me out. Thanks for tuning in.